we see him and one is.
I do. I lost mine. No. All right, I have 6:31, so I am going to call the meeting to order. And first thing I would like is for everybody to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Joanna, you could probably double check with me. I think we've only got 3 commissioners this evening. Is that?
Hold on a second. We've got Kim joining us. I think Kim from Southbury. Hold on. So I'm let's see, Lori, David, Mike Margansky, Gino, Gil, Margus. Is Margus? Yep, Margus is there.
Oh, Margus is there. Okay.
Yeah, and
Under a pseudonym.
hi, Kim.
Hi.
So I'm counting, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're short 1 for a quorum at this point.
Okay, the quorum is 8.
Correct.
Okay. Somehow I had written down 9. Okay, so we've got Lori, we've got Margus, we've got Gil, we've got Kim, and I'm missing still 2 people.
Did you get Gino?
Yeah, I'm here, Gino.
Okay,
Gino.
I see 2 Gil Gravelines now.
Yeah.
So
He's popular.
ah,
We're still short.
got a lot to say.
I don't know that we have anybody from the public, so we'll skip over that agenda item. The next thing we are not going to be able to do, and that would be the adoption of the February 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. And we're going to move then on to item 2B, a presentation and adoption of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And I know we have Elliot online. Hi, Elliot.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to try and share my screen. Ooh. Sorry, one second. There we go. All right, so hi, everybody. I'm Elliot Wareham. I have not had the chance to meet most of you before, I think, but I am a transportation planner with the COG. And today I am just going to talk a little bit about our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which we just formally adopted the MPO at last month's board meeting. So what is the MTP? It is our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It's the federally required document that is to be updated every 4 years, and it must have a 20-year outlook. So this plan was from 2023 to 2050, and it does contain a list of fiscally constrained projects, but it is supposed to be an overall assessment and more of a vision for what we would like the region's transportation system to look like. And as I mentioned, it was approved at our last board meeting on March 17th. Developing the plan was a collaborative effort between the COG, all of the municipalities, the public, and the Department of Transportation. So the goals and priorities that we identify in the plan, it keeps skipping ahead in my slides randomly. I'm sorry for that. The goals and priorities we identify in this plan should represent the collective vision of stakeholders, staff, visitors, and residents of the region. And we did have a pretty robust public engagement process for this plan. We tabled at several events last summer. We had a survey coordinated with NVCOG, which I believe had over 700 responses. And as this graphic shows, we really wanted to have equity at the center of the plan. And to us, mobility equity means for all ages, abilities, income levels, and from anywhere to everywhere. So what is in the plan? The meat and bones, I guess you could say. So the main concerns we identified were aging infrastructure, bicycle and pedestrian safety, road congestion, underinvestment in transit, and gaps in the active transportation network. And some of the needs that we identified were the need to implement a safe systems approach, which includes Vision Zero and complete streets. We did adopt the Vision Zero policy last fall, yet to do anything formal with complete streets, I believe. Other needs include an improved active transportation network, improved bus transit system, reduced congestion, and travel demand management. And out of the many expected outcomes of the plan, I've listed several here. 0 traffic fatalities by 2060, which is our Vision Zero goal, completion of the Naugatuck River Greenway, improving infrastructure to a state of good repair, transit improvements, mobility equity, and a healthier environment. We have several sections dealing with sustainability and that kind of thing towards the end of the plan. In terms of funding and implementation, the program projects that we have as part of the plan, based on reasonable funding levels, have been broken down into 4 categories of improvements, major projects, system preservation, and transit. So improvements would be anything to enhance safety, improve mobility, increase system productivity, or promote economic growth, while preservation would be more projects that have to do with reconstruction in place, so repairing roadways, rehabilitating bridges, that kind of thing. And major projects are projects that have statewide significance, so things like the new mix in Waterbury, and those projects are generally controlled by the Department of Transportation, the CTDOT. And as you can see, there are a lot more projects that have been programmed in improvements in preservation than preservation, and that is largely because of our Vision Zero goal to generally improve the transportation system. And that is all I have. Just a quick general overview of the plan, but if you want more information, including the full plan, you can visit this link, and we have the draft plan uploaded there. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you very much, Elliot. Elliot, could you, for my benefit, could you talk a little bit more about what Complete Streets is all about?
Yeah. I'm by no means an expert, but Complete Streets is an effort to improve streets for all users. So many of the streets in not only the region, but across the country tend to prioritize motorized travelers, but Complete Streets is an effort, motorized travelers isn't people driving cars, but Complete Streets is an effort to include people who don't decide to use cars. So that would include people biking, pedestrians, rolling, improved transit facilities, that kind of thing. So a complete street ideally would have, the typical roadway, but also improve sidewalk and perhaps multi-use path infrastructure, dedicated transit lanes, streetscaping, that kind of thing. And also that is not for every street. Obviously, a rural street would not need that. So it's very context dependent on what a complete street would look like in every community.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you very much. Nice presentation.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes,
Absolutely.
hi, Jenny.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I was just wondering, a little bit of a segue that was a question that you had. What is the status of the rebuilding of the Derby-Shelton Bridge that goes from downtown Shelton, downtown Derby? It started and it seemed like one side of the bridge is completed, but the other side seems to have stalled. Was that weather connected or?
As far as
season?
I know, it's ongoing. I think they might have been taking a break for winter for construction, but the project, it's not my project, so I don't know the exact status of it. But as far as I know, it's still ongoing.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just pass it along to the powers that be as to, I was personally concerned about this, and just traveling through downtown Derby into across the bridge the other day. What happens is that the lane in the middle is restricted, and so traffic has to go on either side, and it's been working okay. But on the Derby side, there are several areas of the pavement and the asphalt that are just torn up, and for a car to go drive through that area, it's pretty bad. So I don't know if somebody could look into that. Have they forgotten to patch it a little bit or whatever? But it's really confuse your car.
Yeah, I will pass on those concerns to Karen Svets, who is the project manager.
Great.
for that
And if she has any questions, please refer to me. She could always
Sure,
call me.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you, Elliot. Josh has just indicated that he thinks that we have a quorum. I think I'm still missing one name, but I'm going to go with Josh's numbers. In that case, before we move to the next item, I'm going to go back and look for a motion to accept the February 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to look those over.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Gino.
Gino, thank you very much. All those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Very good. One
I
abstention.
was
Oh,
not
as well.
either, Dave, I was not at the meeting. I had,
Okay, we have two abstentions.
Vargas,
Mr.
who?
Mike Morganski, I'll be abstaining as a new member.
Okay, I'm still going to call that as an accepted vote. All right. The next item on our agenda is referrals.
Sure.
Josh?
Yep. I have two quick housekeeping things before we start on the referral report, which is just to follow up on Ginny's question. One of the areas where we're going to enhance both our website and just our general public outreach is that we're going to post a separate section that identifies ongoing construction projects in the region, so that it's a lot easier for the public to be aware of them and know from our website, what the current status is. And in particular, we're contracting beginning July 1 with a new software provider that's going to give us a more user-friendly interface with a lot more flexibility and graphics capability, so that essentially people can see where the project is, how much it costs, what the status is, which I think in terms of our core mission of basically sharing that transportation decision-making process is a really great improvement. So coming soon to a theater near you is the message here.
Very good.
One other quick housekeeping thing is that the guest speaker for today has a conflict with an earlier meeting and will actually be speaking at the end of the meeting, which I encourage everyone to stick around. So in order to accommodate her schedule, if we could just, Mr. Chair, have the other items following the referral report come before her presentation, that should give her plenty of time to log in.
Very good. We will do. Do we have any correspondence?
To my knowledge, we do not.
We do not. Okay. Skipping down to the round table. Let's Josh, what can I do?
I'm going to give you a quick referral report.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
we just kind of bypassed that altogether.
Well, I did say I had a couple of things to add before we got there, but here we've got there. Okay, so
All right.
just as a quick informational thing, so since the year began, we've had a total of 32 referrals, of 28 of which have occurred since the last RPC meeting in February and March. 12 of those are within the region, 16 are outside. For the most part, they're relatively modest zone changes and amendments, but there is one notable, and I'm sorry that Bob Nerney isn't here tonight, because Waterbury has implemented an overlay zone in that Cherry Valley shopping center area that's just adjacent to the West Main Street interchange with 84, sort of the west side of downtown Waterbury. And I think if it's not tonight, because he's not here, another time it would be very interesting for him to share how that change was developed, in particular because they wanted to accommodate a broader range of uses that were compatible with the existing shopping center. They had a very high vacancy rate. And the reason I mention it specifically is because, I know a number of our towns are sort of struggling with older strip shopping centers that have a vacancy problem. And so essentially, I think it's an area that could well be of interest to a lot of folks to look at some different land use regulation options, as well as development options in terms of non-retail space in that context, and basically, having parking requirements and zoning regulations, use regulations that allow that kind of gradual transition to take place and accommodate the needs of the market. So that's my pitch, and that is the end of the referral report.
I apologize. Skip right over that. I thought that was kind of smooth, though. All right. We're going to skip down to roundtable discussions. I'm going to kick it off by saying I have just one item that I was going to bring up in Bristol, and that is we are in the process of rewriting our zoning regulations, and as a new item in our zoning regulations, we're dealing right now with elderly housing, senior housing. And I got to tell you, it's causing quite a stir. We have one housing development scheduled for our next meeting, and we're anticipating a lot of blowback from some of the neighbors who really don't want to see it. So getting the right wording is troublesome for us, and appealing to common sense from the neighbors is another issue. We certainly see the need in Bristol for elderly housing, but it's a very complicated issue, apparently. Right now, we have 3 lawyers who are trying to help us to write the zoning regulations, and they would like to see 8 units per acre. And we've come, as a commission, we've come up with 6 units per acre. So we're still working out exactly how many units per acre that we will have. Let's see, Gino, would you like to tell us what Derby is up to?
Yeah, sure. First of all, good evening to everybody. We have 34 is moving forward. They were there paving, I believe, late last week, early this week. They're going to be switching over pretty soon, so that's in the move. We have Trolley Point that broke ground downtown, in the downtown area, so things are moving along. And one other thing that we did was we passed one of the zoning regulations in town to update our zoning as well. So things are moving there, and hopefully it's going to be a good summer down there.
Sounds great. Anything else?
That's it from Derby.
Thank you very much, Gino.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask,
yes.
Gina?
Yeah, Ginny, how are you?
Hi. Did the project on, is it Caroline Street, the Cedar Village start?
It did not start yet, no.
But
But it's all been approved, and I think there was some last minute kind of negotiations about the brownfield and the cleanup, but I think that's all been worked out, but officially they have not broken ground as of yet.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
any week now.
That particular developer has done 3 projects.
Yep.
He did 2 in downtown Shelton, supervised a 3rd for another property owner. And we have always gotten good results with him.
Yeah, Mr. Stanziel's good,
Yeah,
good people. I met with him when he came to our planning and zoning board, which I sit on as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, he's very particular, very fussy about things. He does not cut corners. And I think you'll really like the end result. And he's at the appropriate time, we have all been able to, as a commission, tour each of those particular projects. So we have a good feeling as to what we saw on paper and what the final result was.
yeah, we feel the same way here. I'm glad that he came over here to Derby, crossed the river there, and I think it's going to be a good match for us, and especially where it is too. That's going to be the beginning to some updates in that area. So
Mhm.
we're very happy with it so far.
Good.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Oh, by the way, Jenny, love your sweatshirt. Congratulations, the Yukon men.
You're lucky that the rally that was shown on NBC didn't last too long, because I kept watching saying, hey, it's 6:20. I got to get to a meeting. So.
Who would have thought, right?
Mm.
Lori, what's going on in Naugatuck?
Hey, David. Right now, last month, or 2 months ago, Michelle was in place of me, said how we passed our cannabis ordinance or regulations. We now have an approved hybrid retail cannabis establishment coming to town at 585 South Main. Used to be the Christopher Colombo, then it was several different bars, and now it's going to be a hybrid retail cannabis establishment. We just had a positive referral from our planning commission to zoning regarding an application on 112 Bridge Street, which is the Eastern Company. Chipotle wants to go there. So the public hearing opens in a couple weeks. Hopefully that'll all go through. We're working on our affordable housing plan still, along with updating our POCD. I have to tell you, Savannah Nicole has been to my office twice with, I will call like a one-on-one to help me write things. It has been wonderful. I like these meetings, but sometimes the one-on-ones are a little bit more effective. You could talk a little easier. So I've had 2 with her. It's great. Let me see, May 20th, 21st is our first town festival of the year. We're making it a 2-day. Food truck battles is back, which we had last year, which came thousands and thousands of people. So we're gonna have the food truck battles, the downtown festival on Church Street. I believe they're having a car show. And also that weekend, we're opening our new skate park, which, as our mayor calls it, the best probably in the country, if you know. So they've been working hard on that. It's pretty amazing what it looks like. All concrete this time, no more of the movable stuff. And then also, somehow I ended up on the fair rent ordinance. Basically, it's going to come under me as staff. So they're doing their public hearing, I believe, tonight with the Board of Mayor and Burgesses. So once I'm done with this, I'll jump on that to see how that's going.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you.
Margus, Plymouth.
Yes.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Uh, I'm still working on cannabis regulations. I'm still working on affordable housing things. Those are sort of like on hold while other things take focus. I don't have anything else really to update on. It's just
Okay.
like feeling that stalled feeling with things.
I know that feeling. All right, thank you very much. And we have Gil, Prospect.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Gil.
Oh, great. Okay, I was having a little trouble with my earphone piece here. Prospect, we had an application for a new gun range, and that was very interesting and a lot of activity on that. But they withdrew their application, so just a little too much for them, I guess. I don't know the real technical reason, but we also had a text amendment to eliminate gun ranges in Prospect. So that went down. We left it the way it was because it was a very NIMBY thing. So I thought that it should be for the whole town. So we left that in place. So other than that, that was what was really consuming us for the last 2 months. And I do mean consuming, as you can imagine, between the letters and pros and cons. But I'd like to say that the Second Amendment is still safe. So what can I say? Other than that, we're working on our POCD. Pretty soon we're going to have a consultant come in, and we'll interview them, and we'll see if we can start getting things updated, as we all have to every now and then. So other than that, Prospect remains very much the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Ginny, Shelton.
Okay, I'll try to be brief, but as usual, we always have a lot going on. We did approve in the last couple months a 43,000 square foot addition to an existing 40,000 square foot industrial building in an area that is considered light industrial that parallels Bridgeport Avenue on the riverside. We also approved the gas station and retail building, Bridgeport Avenue, Constitution Boulevard area. We don't get a lot of those, it seems, and this one took a little while because we were not necessarily in agreement as to the appearance of it. And they came in originally wanting a 2-story retail building with offices on the second floor, and we didn't like that concept. We did modify, we did approve a modified site plan for a nursery, that small nursery that's going to be on Bridgeport Avenue, more towards the downtown area. And right now we have open the following projects: 152 apartment application on River Road, one that's 129 apartments on Canal Street, the very last parcel before we get to the locks and the upper part of the river. We have a gentleman in front of us that we had approved things for before on River Road, where there's a marina, and what he did was within the last year was to acquire additional, about a little over maybe 3 acres of land, so that he wants to expand his operation. And what it would be doing is to relocate and increase the size of a previously approved restaurant event facility at a 7,800 square foot office building. There were 102 apartments previously approved, but now he's going down to 90, but he's adding 35 condo units. So we have a potential of 500 that's strike that. And that also with the marina is upgrading the boathouse and some other facilities there. We did enact a moratorium last year on accepting applications for cannabis, and that was extended for another year at the end of March. And we also extended a moratorium that we had enacted last year on accepting applications for multifamily high density rental except in the downtown area. So there are a couple applications that came in right before that a moratorium went into effect that we have not acted on. We did finalize our affordable housing plan finally. It was like writing a dissertation. And now that is that's been passed along to the Board of Aldermen for their approval. We did zone changes in 2022 to begin the extension of Constitution Boulevard. And that goes from Route 8 towards Stratford, but the other direction is what the extension is for. And the thought was that would eventually connect with what's called Shelton Avenue, which leads from downtown Shelton up into the Huntington section of town. So that was back in 1996. The city of Shelton purchased about 70 acres from the FDIC after a bank that was supposed to have an enormous corporate headquarters there went belly up. And that was the whole thought, was that would give us the opportunity to extend the boulevard. So that is finally starting. We did last year announce that Bigelow Tea in Fairfield had purchased 25 acres of that 70-acre parcel for future expansion. And we also have now about 6 or 7 other companies that have entered into agreements with the city for other part of the remaining acreage. The price of the land for sale was set by the city from anywhere from $85,000 to $125,000 per acre. It is basically raw land, no utilities, needs a lot of site work, but there was only one parcel that really commanded the $125,000 price, and that was one that abuts Bridgeport Avenue, where it does have access to utilities. The Board of Aldermen will be establishing a fair rent committee. And finally, we did have about half of our commission was able to attend the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agency dinner conference a couple weeks ago. And it was at that particular event that our consultant was awarded for his years of service to the commission. His name is Tony Panico. He started a company called AJ Panico and Associates a number of years ago. He is 91 years old, and he has been our consultant for 60 years. He is the person that wrote our original subdivision regulations and has been a consultant with us for all that time. He is sharp as a tack, remembers a lot of things and we just thank God that we have him, because he understands the evolution of the town and how the regulations have gone over the years. So I was thrilled that he was acknowledged for his years of service to the commission.
What a resource. What a resource.
It's incredible. Yep.
Ginny, anything else?
No, I don't think so.
You know, I love it when you tell us what's going on, because I always feel like a slacker.
No, you know what it is that we have a mayor that has boots on the ground kind of person. And
wow.
Once it just seemed like a domino effect, because it was 1975 that downtown Shelton had that major fire when the factory building, the mattress factory building went up, and that was a debacle.
BF Goodrich.
Oh, that was a mess, and that changed the whole course. And luckily, that was the year that happened 3 months before my husband and I got married. So I remember that event very well, because just a side story, I was spending the weekend in my in-laws' house in Bloomfield, and that Sunday morning, I had said to my future father-in-law, "Did you get the paper?" And because I always would read the paper, and he said, "Yeah, I think it's out there on the sidewalk." So I went out and got it. And as I walked back to the house, I opened it up, and there, the top 2/3 of the front page of the Hartford Courant has this humongous banner headline and picture of the burning factory. And I stood there in shock and ran in the house and called my parents' house. And my mother and father had a whole story about how they had been at a banquet the night before, at Raps Grassy Hill Lodge, and they couldn't go down 34 into Derby. They had to go up towards New Haven, get on the Mare Parkway, go across the river, and get off by Sikorsky to get home because everything was so blocked off. And that Sunday afternoon, finally, when I came back home, I went in downtown Derby, went to that area where Housatonic Lumber was, went up on the dikes and looked across at the river at the destruction, and there was still smoke, columns of smoke coming up. And all I could say was, oh my gosh, now I know what the people over in Europe and must have felt when they were bombed during World War II, because it was a mess. So luckily City Fathers and the commission had started talking about developing Bridgeport Avenue and turned it into the commercial area that it was. And with the help of the late state rep Dick Belden, the state was convinced to, instead of just improving Bridgeport Avenue and turning that into maybe like a 4-lane major road like the Boston Post Road, but to have a true highway position to the I guess it would be the east of it. And that's how Bridgeport Route 8 got to be where it is today. So it's just
Very interesting.
Domino effect. One thing started another.
I think March 1st was the 48th anniversary, I think, this year.
That's right.
That just passed.
Yep. Now you know how many years I'm going to be married.
Congratulations.
To him. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Kim, what do we have going on in Southbury?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kim.
So we've had some things. We finally approved our POCD, so that is finalized. We thank very much NVCOG for their help. We also we have all of our right. So there, our new land use director is working on consolidating a lot of different files to so that they're like our historical files, so that they're a lot easier to reference, and also working on interdepartment collaborations for so that things are more efficient, and we're working on website changes to make things more easy to find. Also, we had a number of our land use commissioners attending the trainings that have been offered. So 15 of our commissioners have attended, for instance, the affordable housing session. And we've had 5 different ribbon cuttings around town. So we've got a lot going on. Still hosting our 350th this year. And we've got covered on the News 12 for that. So pretty exciting.
Very good. Anything else, Kim?
That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. And our newest commissioner, Mike.
So good evening, Mike Margansky. I've got some pretty big shoes to fill following in the footsteps.
You'll do fine.
Following in Jim's footsteps. Excuse the background. I work as a medic for one of our local towns here, just outside our region. And well, the ceilings have been like that for 25 years. But anyway, Seymour the Planning and Zoning Commission had just completed the overhaul of their regulations, and they went into effect on Saturday the 1st. So staff and we're getting used to just putting that together. I'd like to just give a shout out to Joanna and Josh for engaging the commission a couple of months ago in regards to the regional plan of development and how it relates to what will be Seymour's. It was very enlightening for both myself and for the commission. So thank you to both of you. We have quite the engaging amendment change and request for a definition moving forward on the 13th for consideration of a mental health care facility down in the RC3 along the Route 34 river. They have to make their decision a week from Thursday on whether or not they're going to allow that use to occur. May 11th, we'll be bringing a proposal to amend our accessory dwelling unit portion of our regulations, and starting that public hearing process on that. Beyond that, I'd just like to thank you for having me, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Wonderful. And we really appreciate having you. I think I've got everybody. I didn't skip anybody, did I? No?
Actually, Stacy from Thomaston has joined us.
Oh, very good. All right, Stacy. Thomaston, tell us what's going on. Is Stacy there? I think Stacy's still muted. Stacy?
I'm sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, how are you? Is everybody?
I think everybody's great.
Good. Yeah, Thomaston has a lot going on. I'm pleased to announce that at 11:30 this afternoon, we officially pulled the trigger and submitted our sustainable CT application. After months and months of hard work, I'd like to thank our UConn public policy intern. His name is Kyle. He did a phenomenal job with that, helping us out with that. We also approved some renovations to Seth Thomas Park. It's going to be a major renovation of the open space there with a amphitheater for our outdoor concerts and events from our opera house and Landmark Theater. So that's hopefully gonna go out to bid shortly, and hopefully within the next couple of months they'll be breaking ground. What else are we doing? Oh, we put in our application for hopefully getting a portion of our greenway underway, and we have a revamped greenway committee to try and further that task. We're trying to get in a new website that we think is going to be much better for economic development, and looking forward to starting that process. It's going to be a lot more user friendly than what we currently have. I'm trying to think what else we've been doing. We have been doing a lot. The commission is going to be starting hearing a application on behalf of the Opera House Commission we had gotten some grant funding for some much needed renovations in the Opera House, as well as replacement of the roof, which has to be done according to historical requirements. But one of the exciting things is adding in a freight elevator and loading dock on the side of the town hall / opera house that will enable things such as grand pianos to be brought up to the opera house area and expand the offerings that they can provide there. So the commission's going to be hearing that on tomorrow night, actually. We are hopefully nearing the end of our affordable housing plan work. We, as a part of our sustainable CT and as a part of our affordable housing work, we initiated something we called the Renters Roundtable because we were somewhat surprised during all of the work to discover that 1/3 of the town rents their home. So we've been trying to reach out to that community. We launched a survey. We got a lot of great feedback. And that's probably going to be leading into some additional things like development of a housing code ordinance. And trying to think what else. I think that's pretty much everything at the moment.
Very good, Stacy. I am so happy to hear about the renovations going on at the Opera House. That is, that's a treasure for you guys.
It is. It absolutely is.
Josh, I think that we have Becky who has joined us. So I think the appropriate thing to do would be to back up to item number 3. And we have a presentation by Becky Bradley. Becky, take it away.
Thank you. Is it okay if I do a screen share, Josh? Okay.
Please.
And thank you, by the way, for working your agenda around for me. Our organization just got an award tonight from the Lehigh Valley's United Way organization. And so I was just literally running between events, which sounds important. And I never really actually get to do that, to be quite honest with you. So I was pretty excited about that. And that gets to talking about the power of partnerships. And I'm going to talk about that as it relates to freight as well. All right. So I don't know what you know or don't know about the Lehigh Valley, but we are the Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton area of Pennsylvania. So we also have the, for better or worse, distinction of being known as one of the fastest growing corridors in the nation for warehousing and logistics, which is what I know I'm supposed to speak about this evening. But something's interesting that's happened related to that over the last 6 years. And I'll show you all kinds of fun data in a minute. But our gross domestic product, just in the 2 counties that make up the Lehigh Valley, which is Lehigh and Northampton counties, is over $47 billion. And that is more than the state of Vermont, more than the state of Alaska, and then also more than the state of Wyoming. But don't tell the Economic Development Corporation. That one's not saying much. But at the end of the day, it makes us the 88th largest economy in the world. And that's important because you also have a very productive economy. And knowing that information and being able to kind of put that in context of what's happening in your communities is really important, especially to this freight conversation. So I pulled a little bit of information because we're both partners in this Metropolitan Area Planning Forum, which I know you know about, but it's a mega regional partnership and we work on issues of freight, resiliency, and other things. And the interesting thing that I figured out when I was preparing for this was this entire map forum, which really kind of organized around freight. It includes the New York City's MPO and North Jersey and all those folks at the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey, but a whole lot of Connecticut metropolitan planning organizations, and then Orange County, New York, and then us over in Pennsylvania across the moat of the Delaware River. No matter how many alligators and sharks we put in there, it cannot keep the people from moving in. So, but we collectively, all of us together, serve 25.8 million people. And we have very specific challenges that are unique to our regions. And I thought one of the things that was really interesting is we're both equidistant from the money center of America, which is Wall Street, which, by the way, as you know, is very close to the port of New York and New Jersey, which as of December became the busiest port in the United States of America. And then you have in Connecticut a number of other ports as well. So at the end of the day, with all the population growth coming into this map area, into the Northeast United States, the challenges that we had in the past have evolved, and we're going to have new challenges into the future. So what does that mean for us, especially around freight and logistics? I really appreciated hearing the reports from the different communities because similar to you, but a little different in the Pennsylvania version, we're the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we do the transportation planning and investment, but we're also a bi-county planning agency. So we largely do advisory review on subdivision land development ordinances, subdivision land development plans. We work on multi-municipal and individual comprehensive plans with our local governments, provide a lot of advisory service, but we're also regulatory on stormwater management and water quality, which is a little bit different. And I know all of our regional councils are kind of organized a little bit differently, but we get the luxury of being able to tie in the land use with the the environmental planning and the economic planning and our parks, rec, and open space, which the conversation I just heard is very similar to the types of conversations we have at our board meeting. And so it made me feel really excited to be able to show you the rest of this. So we have to start with fact-based optimism. Things are changing so fast, and the information and good quality information is key to having a good conversation, especially when so much is changing in the community. And that can be very emotional for not only people in the community, but elected leaders, appointed leaders, and even the staff within the organization. So right now we're sitting at just a little under 700,000 people, just to give you a context, but we've been growing steadily at, let's say, 3,000 to 6,000 persons per year, sustained for over 60 years. And we expect to continue to grow. During 2020, when all of Brooklyn moved someplace else, 20,000 folks moved into the Lehigh Valley in a single year, creating all kinds of housing issues and other things, simultaneously with the growth in the need for products to be delivered by Amazon and resources to be delivered to grocery stores. It got a little crazy. So to give you an idea of how much development's been happening since the pandemic, these are just the 2022 numbers. So you can see for a solid year. But pay attention to that navy blue part of both of the donut charts. That's our industrial number. So the one county had over 9.5 million square feet proposed last year, and the other county 12.6 million square feet. So this has been sustained now for a long time, but this slide's a little bit different than the last one I showed you. The last one was proposed numbers. This one is what then our local governments who have final approval authority in Pennsylvania have actually approved of all of the proposals that we see them first and provide advisory guidance to the local government, and then they decide what they want to do with it, approve or not approve. And that's tricky under our state enabling legislation. But you can see that sum total, our local governments have had a significant amount of pressure just since 2017, when we really all started shopping online and in-app, and that these warehouse, e-commerce, and logistics centers started to really become the retail of the 21st century. What I think is also important, and you can see that on the far right of the slide, is it kind of tracks what's still in the pipeline. Things that we just call industrial are things like manufacturing, quarrying. We have a Portland Cement, Lehigh Portland Cement was invented here. So we have a very active cement industry, albeit it's sort of contained in places where they can quarry. But we've added a small amount of square feet over that time, but we learned that manufacturing doesn't necessarily need as much square footage under roof as our e-commerce, distribution, and logistics centers. But notice that we have a 1 million square feet of manufacturing hanging out there, manufacturing and mining. But then we have 21.5 million square feet still in some level of the approval process since 2017 with our local governments. That's a really crazy number. If you would have told me in 2013, when I started working at the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, that we would even be reviewing 1 million square feet of anything, industrial, e-commerce, logistics, I would have thought you were crazy. And now we're reviewing millions of square feet every single year. I believe because where you're positioned in between the New York market and the Boston market, that you're probably already seeing some of this. And I obviously don't have the local knowledge that you have, but I can definitely share some strategies and how we're addressing it, because it's good and it's bad and it's everything in between. Right now, we have over 2 jobs per person in the Lehigh Valley because of the growth we've had. So that's amazing. I don't think we could have said that a decade or 15 years ago, because you looked at our commuter numbers and you had about half the workers living here and working here and another half going into New Jersey, going down to Philadelphia, because we're give or take, an hour between the two. So we were connected, but we didn't necessarily have enough jobs for everybody who wanted to live here and work here. So we've been spending a lot of time, and as we've had a lot of freight growth, it's become important, following the money. So I want to give you an example of what that really looks like. So we do a couple things. If you're not tracking CBRE, they're a major industrial developer, as well as industrial leaseholder. So they rent a lot of property. Their statistics, and they have them by county all across the country where they have industrial holdings, are fairly accurate. They're the most accurate ones that we look at, though there are some others that are good, but CBRE has a very good system for tracking your industrial market. But if we follow the money, and this is an example that I gave our board not long ago. So if all of the industrial land uses, so that includes the manufacturing as well as the e-commerce and logistics. And we're primarily made up of food manufacturers. So sorry, Boston, but most of Sam Adams beer is made here. All of the Ocean Spray cranberry juice, we're too water rich. We're sitting on a major freshwater aquifer. So there's a ton of high water usage manufacturing here, including medical devices and other things. Olympus Cameras, North American and South American headquarters is here. They do a lot of development and production of cameras, specifically for the medical industry these days. But okay, so money. We, in the aggregate, pay, like, if you're renting industrial space, and most of it is not owned by the end user, most of it's leased, you'd pay about $6.74 per square foot per year. So that's up from $5 per square foot 2 years ago. So the pandemic times, it started to increase as the need to move product from logistics centers increased. So for, let's say, a 5,000 square foot facility, and it's not uncommon now for us to review land development plans that are 1.2 million, 1.3 million square feet, but our average size is about 500 to 600,000 square feet per new industrial building. But for that 500,000 square feet, building at $6.74 per square foot per year, that's $3.37 million a year. So you see, with all of your entitlements and your land development costs, these folks that are building these things, and it's largely on speculation, by the way, you will not necessarily know who your end user is, and that's a whole other level of challenges. They're making money. So then you look at the average length of a lease, which is an 8-year average. So across the length of that 8-year lease, that's $26.9 million in rent off of 500,000 square foot e-commerce facility for this example. So if you use this across the 141 million square feet of industrial that we have total region wide, the private sector industrial property owners combined are earning like $728 million per year in industrial rents. And then that equates to $2.9 billion over the average 8-year lease term. So it really gives you a sense, and figuring that out is very easy using industrial data, like from companies like CBRE or JLL, and what the actual value of those properties is. And that should help you as you're going through those entitlement and the zoning and especially the subdivision and land development process, in understanding where you can negotiate with these folks. So they have a lot more flexibility to negotiate than, let's say, a regional home builder who, even though they might be proposing 50 units or 100 units or even more, may not necessarily have the capitalization that you'll see with some of these industrial companies. We recently saw a school district who bought some land for potential school development in the future, and they bought that property about 15, 16 years ago. They sold it to an industrial, they bought it, I guess this is the important part, I forgot this. They bought it for about $400,000, a little less. They sold it for $52 million raw land, and it's about 6 acres to an industrial developer. So the money is unlike anything that we had seen, and this just hit us fast. So we started looking at, well, then what does this mean in relationship to what's going on in the country? And some of those big port and inland port communities all around the country. And what we found out is that we had the highest rate of new freight facility growth in the country, and that our vacancy rate was very low because our absorption of the new product that they were building was very high, and that you could see they're having an annual rent growth rate that's exceptional. So understanding that will help you be the most astute that you can possibly be when these folks come around. So we knew that we had to find, we were becoming a little too successful, quite frankly. So we knew we had to find solutions to the challenges that were arising, but do that in a smart way that didn't stop the good things that we wanted, and in fact supported them, but then manage some of the externalities that we were starting to see. So as if it hadn't got crazier with just the volume of what was being proposed, we started to see proposals for these high cube and automated warehouses. If you haven't heard of these things, you can go to our website at lvpc.org, and we wrote a really fast community guide actually in 2020 and then updated it in January 2021 because we had gotten one of these proposals that came in. It was an existing cold storage warehouse, about 40 feet high, so roughly 4 stories. But industrial, so you can't really tell how many stories it is in reality because there's no windows. They had been there for a long time. They wanted to expand, but they didn't have any room to expand to the left or the right. So they decided that they would like to go up. And ultimately, this was litigated and the township won. They wanted to go up 12 stories, so 120 some odd feet. The zoning hearing board actually granted a variance because they liked them. They didn't show hardship. The township sued their own zoning hearing board to stop this from moving forward because they don't have fire apparatus. It's the tallest building in the community is about 50 feet tall, and they didn't have fire apparatus to address any emergency management situations in the community. So we realized in that moment that the game had totally changed and that we needed to get out to our 62 local governments that we provide supportive services to get them the information they needed to start writing new zoning definitions and other things that included these types of land uses, and that if there was places where these could go, that you could zone for them there, but if there were places that they didn't work, that you could zone them out. And this just, and I'll forward this slide deck over to Josh to share with you guys, but we started looking at, well, what's just the traffic impact of these things? And what we saw is it's pretty incredible for these high cube warehouses. In fact, it can be well over 1,000 trips per day compared to your typical standard warehouse, which already has trip generation rate of over 1,700 vehicles per day. So we noticed that our neighbors were starting to have similar issues. It just was happening here because you could get to us easier. It's free to get out of New Jersey, or it's free to get into New Jersey, but it's never free to get out. And I don't know if you guys realize that, and the Pennsylvania tax structure is better than it is in New Jersey. So it was easier for them to dray freight into our region. Also because of Hurricane Sandy, the port of New York and New Jersey, the electric and the flooding and everything, and all those warehouses around there were knocked out for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so a lot of the grocery store chains lost millions and millions of dollars worth of cold and refrigerated goods. So they started moving our way because it was more, the term at the time was climate safe. No one would really use that now, but we were out of the coastal zone and it was a better deal for those businesses. So we benefited from that for a while until we started drinking from the fire hose. And then we realized our neighbors all the way out to Scranton in Dunder Mifflin territory were starting to see similar things. And so we went to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and said, hey, we know we all have to write freight plans. We wrote our first one in 2015. And the first plan is always just figuring out what the heck's going on. Well, that plan got blown up by all of the freight growth that we had. So all the bridge condition data and all the predictions and freight volumes was like out the window. Our Lehigh Valley International Airports, air cargo, the amount of freight has increased by over 1,000% in the last 4 years, if that tells you anything. So the other thing we learned is that freight's inherently multimodal. Our neighbors were starting to see the same thing. So we work with PennDOT to organize a freight alliance, and now we're writing a joint freight plan to meet not only our MPO requirements, but to hopefully designate freight routes. Because the other thing that we noticed was that freight knows no bounds. It just needs to get where it needs to get. And with electronic logging devices in tractor trailers and limits on their time, we were starting to see some really wacky things happening and shortcuts and other things. You're no different than we are in the fact that a lot of your area, but not all of it, was, really laid out and developed prior to the car. So we have gorgeous covered bridges and stone arch bridges and all those awesome things that you want to see when you're coming into Pennsylvania or going into Connecticut or Massachusetts, and all those beautiful things that are historic and really define who we are. But you can't take tractor trailers across those, and definitely not at any frequency. And we're starting to see these crazy movements and bridge collapses and all this craziness. So we're working on that plan right now. Simultaneously, the Northampton County Executive, which is one of our counties, said, whoa, Lehigh County had all this development back in the day. We're going to get it too. We're starting to get it, but we don't want to look like them. So as a regional council and the diplomats in the game, we talked to both counties and said, hey, we're happy to work on Northampton County's issues, but Lehigh County, could you also allow us to work on your specific issues as soon as we're done with Northampton? And that's what we're working on now. But I want to switch and show you this really cool thing that we did, because I would highly recommend it if you're starting to get, any significant change. We just focused one on freight. Is the amazing people that I work with, Team GIS and Team Transportation Planning, created an online map where we literally loaded everybody's zoning code and then organized it in general categories. So we could start to see where different things were allowed within Northampton County. So you can click on stuff. So we looked at everything from landfills to manufacturing uses, to quarrying, to food production, to even oil and gas. And you can see from this map that it's literally almost everywhere in the county. Our local governments didn't realize that they had so much land zoned for industrial development, especially when you get up in Lehigh and Moore townships, which the Blue Mountain is our northern border, and the Appalachian Trail runs along that. And it's beautiful farmland that goes into natural land. And it's really, really important for protection of our water quality. But it's really what people think of when they think of our region as being this beautiful mix of natural and built environments. And they've prioritized that time and time again as being a priority in our work. And so we felt that we had a responsibility then to start working with these local governments to be able to update their zoning. In Pennsylvania, it's basically a right to develop state. So what that basically means is if you're not in a multi-municipal comprehensive plan, you are required to have every zoning use that you could possibly think of allowed on at least 3 parcels in every community. So we ran at this issue and started organizing 6 different multi-municipal comprehensive plan groups, and organizing everybody in county within both counties, so they could start to zone out things like high cube warehouses where they didn't make sense and where you don't have the infrastructure for them, zone in manufacturing uses that are heavy water and sewer users in places where we had water and sewer capacity, or it could be easily extended. And started really picking off the overall policy, so then they could start to work on managing their land uses a little bit better. Because I'm sure, like you guys, people put zoning codes in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. And there's a lot of zoning in like general industrial districts, but now we have all kinds of uses like the high cube. So we actually wrote a community guide. It's available on this website here. And again, I'll give this to Josh so he can share it with you, and feel free to reach out to me at any time. We're doing some cool stuff with our new carbon reduction funds that are coming into our metropolitan planning organization. We're kind of a purple area. So some places you can talk about climate change and climate action, and other places you can't. What really matters is that we're having flooding issues. We're having emergency services delivery issues. And so working on those and then helping our air quality, because we're in a valley, is something that we're taking very seriously. So we're actually working on different projects to make sure that we're investing those new resources that are becoming available to us in things. And that's as part of our long range transportation plan update that's underway right now. We're also doing some community needs surveys around that. And I just want to end on this. The level of technical assistance that we're providing to our local governments has more than quadrupled in the last 6 to 7 years. We now have an on-call technical assistance program. We did 44 of them last year, where local governments can call us and say, hey, we're having these issues with trucks. And now all of a sudden the kids are having trouble getting across the street to get to schools. So we'll literally go out, one of our staff with a transportation engineer who may or may not work with PennDOT, but PennDOT is helping to support this program. We have transportation engineers on staff, but we also have a planner on staff. And so depending on how it works out, we'll go out and do a technical assistance visit, or what we call a tech assist visit, and then give them a report within 2 weeks. And then that gets them in the pipeline for transportation improvement program funding to help address whatever the issue is. We've also have what we call a general assembly. It's a meeting of all 62 local governments, both counties, our state and federal elected officials, as well as our 17 school districts. We meet twice a year to go over the needs for the region. And we've been having some really serious discussions with them about what they need and the training they need. And then we've been developing transformative talks around that. And then we've also been working with the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Education Institute, which is just a subset of our American Planning Association chapter for Pennsylvania, to do a lot of general community planning training, zoning, and what that means under our state enabling legislation, getting our zoning hearing boards and zoning officers trained on how to address these types of issues, whether it's new housing construction or how do you deal with a car wash where you didn't expect to have one, to these larger industrial issues, as well as teaching our local planning commissions how to do basic things like review plans, but also to write plans. And so that's been really important in getting out there to try to manage some of these issues. And then we've been doing some really simple, we call them their Photoshops. We just use Adobe Photoshop. We'll go out. This is Bath Borough. It's a National Register Historic District. It's an intersection of 5 2-lane state roads. It's now become a freight path between our region and our neighbors in the Poconos to the north. So we've been going through and saying, okay, well, we can't limit truck traffic there. This is an important truck route, but how can we make it more safe? And then we've been tying that into our transit strategy, and every land use of regional significance that we get, we send to the transit agency, take their comments, weave them into our review letter. And then in some cases, we'll even do renderings of how transit can intersect with biking, walking, and our freight mobility, because we're seeing all kinds of new patterns and paths that we didn't see before. And this is really helping our local leaders start to make decisions on where they spend their money, where we can partner with them, and where we can even develop public-private partnerships, which we're now on our 4th public-private partnership. We build an interchange. We work with FedEx. FedEx Ground opened its largest ground hub north of the Lehigh Valley International Airport in the world just a few years ago. That was obviously a massive game changer for us, but we work with them in a public-private partnership where they invested over $120 million into the roadway system, and we only had to invest like 10. We're doing another public-private partnership interchange project and a new complete street that will help connect a disadvantaged neighborhood to jobs that are being generated by these industrial facilities. This is where freight is good. And this is important. As retail and in-store shopping declines, like in person, there's still going to be some, but not as much as there was. Those jobs are minimum wage, a little bit over minimum wage. Warehouse jobs are paying $18 to $22 an hour. They usually start 16 to 17, and then they work up within 6 months to $18 to $19 and so on and so forth. They're giving them healthcare, sign-on bonuses, and other things. So this has been a massive, it's still hard. You can't live here well on even $20 an hour, and you certainly will have trouble affording housing. But there's a big difference between, $10 an hour and $18 an hour. And so it's made a huge difference for some of our less educated workforce, or people just looking for part-time jobs, like retirement gigs, picking and packing, or other things. So there's a lot of opportunity in some of these jobs as well. We've also seen a real increase in the need for skilled labor, especially people who could do robotics, people who can repair machinery, who can program automated forklifts and other things. So it has helped the professional and the gray collar sector in our region as well. So we just have to work together on these issues. And I hope I gave you a kind of a nice overview of some of the things going on here, and maybe some tips for some of the things that you can work on in your region.
Wow. Becky, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or anything you would like to say to Becky?
I have a question.
Okay.
Does for the amount of traffic that you're seeing from the freight houses and the sizes of the trucks, does that, this is my newbie experience, does that how much does that affect how the roads are built?
Oh, well, you hit on one of the most important issues. It's not just the bridges. That's obvious, because you can see the structures of those, being compromised. But we had to rebuild a section of what's a State Route 100 that is right near the intersection with I-78, because there was good manufacturing and industrial growth there. But because of the increase in truck traffic, as well as box trucks and employee traffic, the road subsurface was not built to withstand those high weight and high frequency movements. So we had to move close to $40 million from our long range plan into the short-term transportation improvement program to entirely rebuild a road that's about 1.25 miles long. I mean, it was an insane amount of money, but that's what we had to do to protect the economy, and then make it continue to the system to continue to function for those businesses around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Becky, it's Gino DiGiovanni. I have a question. So after Sandy and Irene, I guess, like you said, some of the warehouses, maybe the factories, they figured out that they needed to, move maybe inland a little bit. But all the all the slides that you had here, the amount of volume increase, how did the volume increase so much in a short period of time? I guess number one, and then number two, where has it increased from? Obviously, are we just bringing more product into the United States, or is it getting, I guess, brought into the ports on this side of the United States, or has the total freight increased throughout the whole country, and we're just a small part of the increase here? I don't know if you know the answers to those, but I just think that this is so much more freight than we've seen, I don't know, ever or in a long period of time. And where is it coming from?
All of those, literally all of those.
Okay.
Especially since they raised that Verrazano Bridge, and so now they can bring those really big tanker, the really big ships in that have the containers that are stacked even higher. So that really opened up the Port of New York and New Jersey. But the problem is they did that project, their MPOs between NIMTIC and New Jersey, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. They did that project with the Toll Bridge Commission. And as a result of that, all these ships were coming in that were bigger than they ever could, but they don't have enough room on the site at the port to stack the containers. So they basically had to dray them, is what they call it, over to someplace, and we were cheaper, is basically it. So for better or worse, it's coming whether we want it to or not. So I look at it as, and look, last year I got a death threat. People are so angry about the fact that their communities have changed. It wasn't credible. It was a lady, she was just mad. She was that frustrated. And I actually felt sad for her, but she was so frustrated that even though I was there to like help the community figure out what they could do with their zoning, she just had like hit that flashpoint and just needed to get it out. And so really wasn't it me, but that's how angry people are. They're like saying things that they wouldn't normally say. These are reasonable people. So there's some good things that are happening with this and some things that some communities have so substantially changed that people are really upset about it. And so finding that place where we can try to work together and have respect for each other, because it's the only way we're going to manage this, is been, I think, one of our biggest challenges, because it's just exponential. No one could have predicted this. Nobody.
Wow.
So you're saying that the freight was this, where did the freight go that couldn't be handled by the New York, New Jersey places? Did it go into Philadelphia?
No. Oh, they're in competition. The ports are out for money, right? That's the one thing I've learned is part of this. And so they just want to get the freight off the port and out to wherever it needs to go. So it could be to a warehouse out here. It could be to a warehouse in North Jersey. It could be to a warehouse in Waterbury somewhere, right? In one of your communities. It could be in a variety of places that the containers need to go. They just need to get them out of the port as fast as possible because they're out of like stacking capacity.
So they just can't keep it there. But
Correct.
If they can just take those containers, put them on a truck, and then send them out, that's all that matters.
Right.
I just think that the volume increased so much that you could only put 5 pounds of something in a 5-pound box. So, when they raised the bridge and you could get more container ships and maybe bigger ones in now, so you have more capacity. But it still doesn't add up in my eyes to, we had the same amount of freight. We increased a little bit because we can get 10% more product on a ship at one time. Something else, in my opinion, is the cause of it. Maybe it's, more people buying online and more shipping of product, maybe more import of product from other countries, something like that. Or also too, from California, when we had some changes on the ports, in California and the trucking on the West Coast, you could only have, your truck has to meet certain criteria. So a lot of times now they're coming into Florida and up the East Coast. I don't know how much that, works out here, but that's got to be part of the reason too, I assume.
It is. And you hit on something I didn't mention before, the labor issues out in California. Also, and again, I'm not making a judgment call. It's just what's going on. The emission standards for tractor trailers are really high. They're higher out in the West Coast than they are in the East Coast. And so it's cheaper to operate them here.
Oh, I'm sorry. And they passed a bill or an ordinance or something along the way where you can't be an owner operator anymore. I think that went into effect last year or something. So you have to be, hired on through a, Warner or Schneider, one of these bigger companies. You can't just have your own truck or 1 or 2 trucks and drive into the ports. And that seems like it's a big issue as well.
Why did they adopt that type of regulation?
It's California. I don't know the reason why, but they had a lot of, you know, the unions and the truckers, and, you know, it was a big to-do out there about it. You know, a lot of people didn't want to do it, and all it did was slow down the freight, and that's why they had big problems in the Long Beach port and whatnot.
And we are the home of Mack trucks too.
Mhm.
So we've always been friendly to the tractor trailer, if that makes sense. But interestingly enough, Mack trucks successfully, because they're now owned by Volvo, but they successfully made a new all-electric trash truck that they tested out in New York City, because that's the largest trash collection system in the country. And it turned out to be like wildly reliable and successful, and it was cheaper to operate. So they the city of New York put in such a large order at Mack Trucks that they had to stop production of their bread and butter cabs, their tractor trailer cabs, to just fill this trash truck order. So that's not a dynamic that we had ever heard before either from our more from our industrial partners in the region. And so I think that told me that times are changing and that the companies themselves are starting to innovate as well. And they're going to be trying a lot of things out there that relate to the freight industry, because trash truck and trash hauling is obviously part of freight as well. And so that's another indicator that it's just a different time. So we've got to start evolving where we can to meet that. I just want to make sure that if you haven't got the drinking from the fire hose thing out your way, up your way, seriously take a look at some of the writing that we did on high cube and automated warehouses. I know your enabling legislation for land use is different than ours, but I hope there's some good nuggets in there, from the Northampton County freight-based land use stuff to the high cube, that might at least get you thinking on how you might want to get in front of some of these things that are coming, because you don't really know when they're going to happen. And we learned that. We've always had manufacturing, but we didn't envision that we would go from 6 manufacturing districts to 12 in under a decade. And we didn't envision that they were going to want to build in completely rural areas that were like 10 miles off a decent roadway that could take a lot of tractor trailers. And then we also learned that freight is inherently multimodal. So like this jacket I got on, in all likelihood, it was manufactured someplace in Asia, was put on a container ship and shipped somewhere, and then moved to a warehouse. And then I ordered it online. It showed up and it fit, so I kept it, but it was delivered to my house in a box truck. Jewelry's usually shipped in the bellies of passenger airplanes, believe it or not. And so high dollar value goods and perishables. So you might be riding on that next United flight with a whole bunch of tomatoes when you're coming back from your California trip. And so there's so much to know about freight that it in some ways becomes overwhelming. And one of the books I think that helped me understand it best, it's a little nerdy, but it's worth even just reading the summary of it online, is called Door to Door, because that talks about how many different types of freight movements actually go into getting us the products that we consume every day.
Wow.
Becky, I cannot thank you enough. What a
Can I
fascinating.
ask one more question?
Oh, certainly, please, Marcus.
What did they do to the Verrazano Bridge? Did they build a brand new deck?
They raised it. Yeah. They figured out how to engineer it to like raise it up so they could fit larger ships underneath it.
Raise it up or open it up?
Raise it up.
It's not a drawbridge.
That's a fixed, yeah, it's not a
It's a fixed-
drawbridge.
Yeah, it's a fixed suspension bridge.
Right.
Mhm.
How long ago was that?
2 years ago, I think they wrapped it up. It was underway for like a long while.
Mhm.
And
Becky,
that was
did you want-
financed by the Port Authority.
I believe
sure.
so. And I think both of the MPOs were partners in that, the NIMTIC and the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. So they're all our neighbors, you know, they're an MPO away or they're immediately adjacent to us. So these are people that we know. And that gets back to why this map forum is so important. Even if I'm not going to directly do business with the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, or you might not do a joint project with them either. You're only an MPO or so away, and me too. And again, we're both equidistant from Wall Street. We're both equidistant from major markets. And so that I know is attractive to the freight industry.
Becky, would you mind sharing what your background is?
Oh, yes. This is the area, Allentown and Bethlehem like
No,
grew together.
your personal background and your training, because you're so well spoken about this, and I can't get over how much information you presented.
I was just happy to talk more about Allentown and Bethlehem. And no, I'm originally from Springfield, Illinois. I grew up on a farm that looked much like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And unless you're male, you don't really farm where I'm from. It's a pretty traditional place. So I went to undergraduate in Missouri. And then I went and worked in downtown revitalization for a while for the Illinois Main Street program. And I found planning there. It was found really interesting. And at the time, it was because Walmarts were going into rural America. And that was providing opportunities and challenges, just like freight is here for those communities, and working with them to keep their traditional downtowns. And after 4 years of doing that, I decided I wanted to become a planner. I applied to a couple schools, and I got into the University of Pennsylvania, which somebody like me from the middle of nowhere doesn't get into. So I sucked it up and went, paid it off last year, 20 years after being graduated. Yes. But I met my husband in Philadelphia, and he's from the Lehigh Valley. His family's lived here on the same piece of property since 1732. So I'm going to die here now, and I'm totally fine with that. There's a beautiful community with amazing people, and I've been a planner here for the last 20 years.
Good for you.
Did the towns that you said that a lot of the development was occurring, that they were looking at farms, how do those towns cope with developers that would basically come in and sort of like bulldoze them around? I mean, the potential for a fancy developer, accustomed knowing what they do, to walk into a town that has very little staff, very little anything, no money, probably. And, you know, if a company comes in, it's sort of like, no, this is what we want. This is how it's going to be done. That's it. Was that what happened?
Sometimes that happens. I mean, some of the freight development's great. I didn't really want to bore you with any maps because they're a little hyper local for this, but some of the freight developments like right up against I-78 where it should be, or US 22, which is kind of our main street, takes more cars than in vehicles than interstate. But a lot of folks will just call us as a regional council. And that's where the work that you guys do and the staff of NVCOG is so important, because you bridge all the same issues that we do, the land use, the housing, the environment, all those things that you guys are astute on those. And the local governments being able to kind of have us even on the phone for advice was important. Some of those rural communities were like, great. This is going to add a ton of money to the tax base, and we want it. And other communities, those who may be ruled by the Pennsylvania Dutch dynasty, that's what, or Dutch mafia, depending on if you, it's a joke, but, you know, some of them, they don't want change. So they just banded together to make sure it didn't happen, or that there was significant negotiations to make it as additive to the community as possible. One of the Dutch dynasty communities did a great job of negotiating. So they created like a little industrial park right near I-78, made sure that they had the trucker services, like the truck stop and the truck parking locations built in. The developers that worked on that property, including Hillwood, which is Ross Perot's company, if everybody remembers him, and JLL and CBRE, they negotiated to get a new fire station adjacent to that with appropriate equipment to be able to address any of the issues in the industrial park that they just built, and to help build a package plant for sewer, because it's totally rural and they didn't have any sewer or water, just as well, and on-lot septic everywhere. So some of them have done it well even, and then still maintain their rural character around that. And then others, not so much. So we've got every version of that, I would say.
Again, Becky, thank you so much. Josh, thank you very much for bringing on Becky. Anything else? All right. We have some NVCOG updates. Joanna, I think you're going to talk about Regional Plan of Conservation and Development.
Yes, I am. But if I could just say a quick word to, is Becky still there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. It was just fabulous presentation that you did. I learned a lot as a planner, so thank you so much. And I just want to say I have driven that 78 down 100 on my way to Wernersville, Pennsylvania. And I did this in 2021. I hadn't been down that road for like 10 years before that. It's just incredible. You really, I thank you for explaining to me what's been going on. Okay, so what I just want to do is a quick update about the Regional Plan of Conservation Development. We are in the process of drafting the sections for the existing conditions report. And what I want to do is we are posting them online on our web page, and I'm not going to bore you too much, but I will show you. I'm just going to share my screen for a moment just to show you how you could hold on a second. Okay. All right. So you should be able to, are you seeing the NVCOG website?
Yes.
Okay, so if you go over to current projects and toward the bottom is Regional Plan of Conservation and Development, click on that. That'll take you to our Regional Plan of Conservation and Development web page, the project web page. Now along the bottom are just some tabs about, what we're doing currently. Here we'll overview and what's new. What we're posting, our existing conditions sections are on this What We've Done tab. So I just want to show that to you, what we've done. And you can click on these. These are our drafted sections. You can kind of get a look-see, and please, contact me with any comments that you've got to date. These are not our official yet, documents, but I just wanted to give you just a sneak peek of what we've done so far. And if you're interested in you want to download the presentation we made at your particular town, we've got that in the listing here. We did hit 11 of our 19 municipalities, and we've kind of hit our pause button on that for a while until we actually do some more drafting of our document to share with our planning commissions and land use departments. So that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully by May, we'll have the existing conditions drafted, fully drafted. And that's all I've got today.
Joanna, thank you very much. Next up, we have Christine, who's going to talk about sustainable CT and HHW collection and composting sale.
Oh yeah, you know me. I always wrap up the meeting with a whole bunch of updates. I'll try to make it nice and quick for you guys. All right, I'm gonna pop a couple links in the chat for you as I talk. So, all right, so sustainable CT, I know I gave the update last time, but just want to make sure you're still thinking about it. Want to say a big congratulations to Stacy and Thomason. I was not aware that you guys were submitting. That's fabulous. Best of luck. I hope you get whichever tier you applied for. As I hope everyone knows, we're going to have a sustainable CT fellow with us this summer. They'll arrive in early June. They're available to help towns earn these certifications by completing sustainability actions. And if you have never started, if you aren't registered, if you haven't signed up yet, there are 3 things you need to do to prepare. The first is to put together a sustainability team of at least 3 people, including at least 1 staff member or elected official. Second thing is to get a resolution passed, and there are sample resolutions on the Sustainable CT website. And the third is to register for the municipal dashboard online. So if you need help with any of that stuff before the fellow gets here, just reach out to me. I'm happy to assist with that. Any questions on Sustainable CT? most of you guys know this stuff. I've been doing it for years. All right, household hazardous waste collection. So the first one of the year will take place on April 22nd, which is appropriately Earth Day. It will run from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will be at the Shepherdson Community Center in Middlebury. The address, if you're interested, and these flyers are also in your packet. The address is 1172 Whitmore, Whitte, Moore Road. Composter and rain barrel sale. So we've been doing this for the last, I think this is our 3rd year now. They've been pretty well received. We are partnering with a vendor to sell composters, rain barrels, and accessories at wholesale rates. We have the online store live now, which I put the link in the chat, so you could check it out there. Residents in the region can place their order up until May 11th, and they are going to be available for pickup on Saturday, May 13th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Sears Auto Center parking lot in Waterbury, right off 84. So it's a little different. You don't order it and it comes to your house. Instead, you get to save on the shipping costs by coming to pick it up. And we'll have a master composter there on that day to answer any questions you have. Yeah.
Oh, no, continue.
I was just gonna hop to my next thing,
Yes.
which can't get rid of me. I'm here for 3 or 4 in a row. Yeah, so my next thing is Environmental Sustainability Forum. I hope you all received an invite for this in your email. As you may recall, we hold these fora on a quarterly basis about different environmental topics. This spring, we're talking about invasive species management, very timely issue if you work with Parks and Rec, if you work with Public Works, or if you're just a gardener in your personal life. The invasives will start popping up shortly. So we welcome everyone, either within the region, outside of the region, municipal staff, residents, anyone can come. It's a hybrid meeting, so you're welcome to either join us in person at the Waterbury offices, or you can sign up to attend virtually. We have 3 expert speakers that are really outstanding. And this will take place on Thursday, April 27th from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. And my last plug is if you come there in person, we will serve you a delicious free vegan lunch.
Thank you, Christine.
Sure.
Always good. I don't see any other items on our agenda this evening. So a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second, Lori Hotel.
Thank you, Lori. And all those in favor, say aye.
Yay.
Aye.
Bye.
Take that as unanimous. Good night, everybody. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much for
Thank you.
attending.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Josh, good meeting.
Thanks very much. I'm glad everyone got a great presentation.
We sure did tonight. Thanks, Josh.
We'll do more.
Please.